Howdy, beautiful Bart here, and welcome. Alright, so got a little problem here, and show you selected viewport. Got this is the demo that I'm doing for Try Before You Buy on the Explorer pack. I figured I'd step it up a little bit and, you know, just showcase what's in the pack here, and you know, there's gonna be a lot more in here, but go in here, simulates you going into mud. You can get thrown back out. You'll walk back over here, and you've got a couple Jeeps you can play around with. And see if you come over here and hop into a Jeep. I've added the little play area, and it's just to get in here and try the Jeep out. It's not the best setup here, but it is replicated. It is animated, so you can see the steering wheel. You can see the wheels turn and spin, so that's all good to go. And what I thought I would do is make sure that I replicate everything so that we'll be able to replicate driving here. So you get out of the Jeep, and there you go. Essentially, the system is, and I'll show you the script of what we got here is, and sometimes a little bit tricky, but whichever Jeep you decide to get into, you get into that particular Jeep. So that's working just fine. The possession and unpossession is working just fine. So let's actually go in here, and I'm going to actually play to new editor window, and let's go ahead and shrink them down a little bit. Just so we can see both of them on screen together. Alright, well, what's happening, brother? Alright, this is the server on the left-hand side. I'm the server. So you can see each other on the map. That's cool. And this is the client. Actually, let's shrink this one down just a little bit more. It's still taking up part of the other monitor there. Alright, so client, run around, do everything. Everything is good. However, the client cannot get into the vehicle for some reason. You can move it, push it around. But if I come back over here to the server, I can walk right over and hop right in. Now you see whenever the person gets into the vehicle, they have a character that spawns in there. Essentially, it's just a dummy. It doesn't do anything. But you can see it doesn't have the beard either, so it's not completely the same. But, you know, you get the picture of it. You can see that there is a driver now, and if I get over here and go back to the server, I can get out and see, no problem, and you can see that there's no driver in the Jeep. Get in, and now there is. So server is just fine. I can drive really poorly. And like I said, I can go back over here to the client, but the client cannot get into the vehicle whatsoever. I mean, I can come over here and see that there's the server driving his Jeep. So, looking at the player base, essentially what I've done here is I've got, when you press E, you're telling the server to start driving. Tell server to start driving is actually run as a multicast and reliable. Don't know if I should be running call and editor or not, but switch as authority, tell client to start driving, and the tell client to start driving is it gets it replicated right here. Try to rep notify and replicated, hasn't made any difference. So it gets the branch nodes asking, are you at the Jeep? If the answer is yes, then it gets all actors of class for each loop. And this is just the The CAN drive is actually in the Jeep itself. This is the stuff to get in here and do possession. Okay. And this is just to turn on the driver and the hat for the driver. So essentially, this all is the actual what it actually does. So it actually possesses the Jeep. You can see for each class, or get all actors of class, the actor that it's getting is the Jeep, and from there it's going to ask, can it be driven? If the answer is yes, then go across there. So, you know, this should be all working correctly. And if you look at the Jeep itself, then this is in the event graph. And again, I've done both of these as multicast. So essentially, tell client to start, to exit a Jeep. Then it does the get all actors of class, and it does the unpossess. So that's what it does. And then down here on the actual E for the key press is to tell server to start exiting the Jeep. And then tell server to start exit the Jeep, switch as authority, tell client to start exit Jeep, and then it runs this. I mean, this is fairly typical stuff here, but all this shouldn't really matter all that much. It's just that for some reason the client tell server to start exit Jeep, and then tell client to start exit Jeep. Tell client to start exit Jeep is right here. So it's going to run this. The server itself is telling the switch as authority, and then tell client to start Jeep, and tell server to start exiting the Jeep is what's connected to the key press. So when you actually tell it to, you hit the E key. Oh, excuse me. Oh, excuse me. Crap, that hurts. Oh, that hurts a lot. Oh. But the key press itself, when you press E, it's telling the server that you're trying to get out of the Jeep. And when you run that custom event, it's saying switch has authority and tell client to start exit Jeep. It's working for the server, but the client cannot get into the Jeep. That is replicated for this variable. It asks whenever you're at the Jeep. If you look at the viewport, you've got a box collision that's right here to the side. Key press is on the client and not the server. Key press on the player to get into the Jeep, because you can't get into it, much less be able to get out. So tell server to start driving. The server is on the key press, and then the key press itself, tell client to start driving, is off of the tell server, then switch as authority, and then client. Key press is saying to go to server start driving, and server start driving says tell client to start driving. So the actual function itself of the possession is being run off of the client. The client start driving. So it's the Jeep itself. Tell server, and I'll just grab this key press so we got it in a viewable location here. Tell server to start driving has to be a call to the server, not from the server. Alright, maybe I'm just not following you there. Is tell server to start driving. It has to be a call to the server, not from the server. So this should actually be, this is this. So that instead of being a multicast, should this one actually be the run on server? And then multicast for the for client. Alright, so don't know why that Jeep moved here, but now I hate whenever it resizes everything. The server is now controlling where the client used to be. So as I get out, the server sees the client, but the client is... Okay, that's weird. You can see there's... I'm going to put... This is the server here. This is the client. No longer able to control them. So, what about this one being being run on server and multicast for the client? Sorry, I'm just going to scale these down a little bit. So both of them are on the screen here. So server, we'll get into this Jeep right here. And no problem driving around. Alright, so now I'm on the client. Client goes over, can get in the vehicle, but cannot drive the vehicle. Whenever I try to press forward, it rocks to the right. None of my controls work for the Jeep whatsoever. But get out, hitting E will not get out of the vehicle now. So let's go back to the server. Now that I'm controlling the server, I'm in the client's vehicle. Whereas the vehicle that's directly in front of, on the left monitor right there, that's where the server was. Now the client is... Yeah, the server has stolen the client. I get out, and now I'm running around as a server, and the client's invisible. Oh, lordy, lordy, lordy. So your guess is as good as mine on that one, because whenever I had everything set to multicast, this is still multicast, this is run on server, and if I go back to run on server for that, And same thing for that. So everything is run on server. So tell server and tell client are both run on server. And on the Jeep, run on server to that and that. Oh, I really wish it wouldn't resize my damn windows every time. Alright, this is server that I'm running around the server. I'll come over here, get into this Jeep. Get out of the way. No problem. So now if I come over here and operate as the client, I can walk around just fine. Now I just got in, but I can't control the vehicle. I can't get out of the vehicle and I can't drive it. Come back over here to the server, and now I'm driving the client's vehicle and the server vehicle is no longer there. So if I get out, see, I'm server. Now, I just jumped into the vehicle that the other one was in. And, yep, I have killed the client completely. I mean, the closest that I had everything working was, that is a multicast. Run that as a multicast. This is multicast. So the server and the client on both for getting in and getting out are all multicast now. Alright, so with everything multicast. Okay, this is server. Server is on the left Jeep. I can get in, can drive. Alright, let's come over here to the client. I can see everything is working fine. Come over here, try to get into the Jeep. I cannot get in. Now, one thing that I did see that I was having a problem with before was not being able to stop that okay, well, and everything just locked up. There we go. I don't know why it took that long, but so the server needs to be multicast, but the client just needs to be replicated, run on server. But one issue that I had was whenever you get the at Jeep function does not go away. I had at one point where you get into the Jeep, well, whenever you walk up to the Jeep and you get into that box collision, it asks, well, like say for the Jeep right here, whenever you overlap onto it, it casts the player, and it sets right here at Jeep. well, what was happening is it had it say it would pop up and give you a little widget that would say press E to enter the vehicle, but when you did get into the vehicle, it did not go away. And I even put inside here off of the key press, you could put in here, I guess, cast back to the all actors of class, get array, and get can drive Jeep, or at Jeep, or whatever. And I had all that set up, and it just would not get rid of that variable. So let me actually try doing that one more time. Is doing the same thing right here, get all actors of class. Never tried using this get all actors of class matching tag query. So get all actors of class, and then the class is player underscore base, which is my player character. And from there, we just need the get node. And then set at Jeep. Leave that unchecked, so that should say you're no longer at the Jeep. Because that may actually be what's going on, is the fact that it does not see that you're at the Jeep anymore. Well, it sees you're still at the Jeep with a server, but if that's the case, then the client can't be at the Jeep at the same time. So, alright, this is the client. Still cannot get into the Jeep. But server can. God damn Jeep, you son of a bitch. But with that, whenever you press E, because see, like this one right here, it's it's telling you to get out of the Jeep at that point. I'm going to break that, just burn one bridge at a time here. But I think that may have something to do with it. This whole process of the client getting out of the Jeep, that should actually be up there. So tell client to exit the Jeep. That is run on server and reliable. At this point, you should be able to run, well, actually, no, from the player base. Should be able to go like right here. Are you at the Jeep? Yes. Then it does this whole sequence. So should be able to then say set at Jeep to false. Just plug this in here. So now that it says when you start getting into it, you're no longer at the Jeep because you're in it. Alright, so client cannot enter the Jeep. Server can. You see he's in there just fine. Over here I can get this Jeep and it works just fine. But the client cannot get in and out of the Jeeps. So I don't have a clue. Yeah, see, get all actors of class. It's actually getting all actors of class, and it's asking on this branch right here, are they at the Jeep? So actually this, if I'm not mistaken, then should actually be here. Get all actors of class. So let's, get into the right one. And whenever it's actually, you're the player, and you want to start driving the Jeep, it asks, are you at the Jeep? There. But, let's just get rid of that. So, this is the way it was before. So, shouldn't it then get all actors of class and it's then asking the Jeep, is it able to be driven? And if that's the case, then if it's able to be driven, then essentially you're hiding your character, you're hiding or turning off your collision for your character, and then you're possessing, and then you're also turning on the visibility of the driver and the driver's hat. So we know all that works fine, but because it asks, are you at a Jeep, essentially? Are you at the Jeep? If so, then get all actors of class. And then it asks, can it be driven? Then on the Jeep itself, this is only for exiting. You got all the controls. None of the controls are replicated. Handbrake, throttle, steering, and this is a view change, so you can go to an internal camera. Relative rotation is actually replicated. I didn't do that on. That's just something that happened. So on begin play for the Jeep itself. Setting the input to game mode. Getting the player controller. Enable in-car view. Toggle camera. So basically nothing on the controls have been changed for the vehicle itself. And the vehicles are working just fine. Just right now the client cannot get into the Jeep. So I've got on the key press, tell server to start exiting the Jeep. And again, let's go back in the correct order here. Whenever you walk over to the Jeep, it's telling the server to start driving. And then tell server to start driving, switch on authority, and then tell client to start driving. Tell client to start driving, asks, are you at the Jeep? Maybe that should be The at Jeep should be here on the key press. So just run that to there. So the key press should be asking that question, are you at the Jeep? So that could be part of the issue, because it was waiting till it got all the way to here to then start driving the Jeep. So it would be pretty much the same thing on the key press. I don't have any reference to that whatsoever. Can drive. Okay, and those are the references there. No, this is just running normal server, you know, because whenever you're actually doing just regular replication, it's just, this is normal replications using my standard and actually it's not even using any of it yet, but whenever you actually launch the game from standalone, it actually, server is server. So when you actually hit play, you're creating, like say I'm playing 2-player. I could do 3, I could do 5, I could do whatever I want, but this is being 2. So the video on the left, this side right here, this is the server. I am the server. I'm running around. Server is the one that's actually hosting the game. So I am the server, no problem. Come over here, I can get into a Jeep and I can drive around. Come over here and drive next to the client. Client can see there's a driver in the vehicle. That's all lovely. Now I come over here as the client, and now I'm running around as the client. I'm knocking his Jeep all around. So now if I come over here, can I get into the Jeep? Nope, I cannot get into a Jeep. So it's still fighting me and not letting me get in. We come back over here as the server, no problem. I didn't say the vehicle controls were great, but so if I was hosting this game, I'd be the server. So the client is just the person that's connecting to the game. The server is the one that's hosting the game. So it's not like it's a dedicated server or anything. Wow, that player is heavy as hell. Can barely move this damn Jeep with the other player up on the roof. What a weak-ass Jeep if it can't carry a second person. Like I say, also, if I wanted to set it up to where the server could drive and the client, yeah, it's getting weird. It's crashing here. you know, the server could drive and the client could actually be a passenger. Where if you run over to this door and try to get in, you get in on the passenger seat. But the whole point here is I want to be able, as the client or the server, to be able to go into any vehicle that I want to get into. I want to come over here and I just want to get into the damn Jeep and drive as the client. Because the server has no problem. So I come right over here and smash right into it. Get out. Come over here and hop in this one and steal it from right in front of homeboy. So everything else is replicating just fine, except for the client not being able to get to the damn Jeep. So here, as the client, come back over here, I can't get in. Doesn't make any sense. So what am I doing wrong, guys? I mean, we've tried a bunch of different things here, and, you know, I think I'm calling it right. Can drive does not need to be replicated, I don't imagine. But, you know, I'll leave it replicated for right now because it's not hurting anything. The only thing we have is player getting in and out of the vehicles, and that's it, and displaying them in and out of vehicles. Whenever you walk over as the player to a vehicle, and you press the E key, it's going to ask, are you at the Jeep? And if so, then it begins this process of telling the server that I want to start driving. Whenever you tell the server to start driving, you're saying switch as authority, tell client to start driving. Tell client to start driving allows me to then possess the Jeep. Is there a problem with possession? What is... And I guess one of those things where you're trying to figure out where something is broken. Print text. I am working to this point. So we just want something to pop up here. And then let's go to... Yeah, screw it. Let's come all the way back over to here and let's connect you right there. So I guess this is what I'm going to have to do is sit here and poke that print text in to a bunch of different locations and see where it breaks. So client comes over and I press E to try to get in and nothing's happening. Come over as the server and it's working. So we know that it's not there. The client just can't talk to it at that point. So let's again just plug it in and see what happens. When I press the key, it's going to do that. It's going to print my little bit of text here and then start working. So I'll have to sit there and okay, I'm the client. Okay, so it works when the client comes over and goes to the door. So it's working at this point. That's no problem. So let's tag it on the end right here. After I tell the server to start driving, alright. So, client. This is all we care about as a client. We know that it works. So now, I come over here and you see, whenever I click to open up the door, it is saying I'm working to this point. So it works there. So let's put it at the end of tell server to start driving. So that would mean that there would be a problem in here if it doesn't print that text now. Alright, so the client comes over. Alright, so nothing. So that's where we're broken, is somewhere in this region right here. Tell server to start driving. It is broken somewhere in there. So if I come over here and bring this over to here, and sadly this is probably the easiest way to troubleshoot. Alright, client. Alright, it showed the message. So it works to this point. Switch has authority would be the only thing that would be broken right now. Client walks over. And so what would I use besides you see I'm trying to get in as the client. Server, see, it's working just fine. So whenever the client gets to standing at the door, everything works all the way up to switch has authority. So everything works up until this point right here for the client. And this is tell server to start driving is multicast. Whereas the tell client to start driving, which is this, is actually run on server. So it works all the way up till it gets to right here. Right here. So switch has authority it's not getting through the switch has authority as the client. So whenever I do the possession to the Jeep itself, the possession right there, possess, says server only. Target is controller. Only runs on network authority when has authority returns true. Handles attaching this controller to the specified pawn. Only runs on the network authority where has authority returns true, which I thought would be switch has authority. So if it's at that case here, but still the switch has authority. This switch doesn't really have authority as the client. So how do we say that the client has the authority? tell client to start driving. Well, you can't tell the client to do anything just yet, because whenever you do tell server to start driving, this is tell server to start driving. So when you press E, it's essentially going through here and picking up here and going this way, and then here it's continuing through there. So switch has authority, but shouldn't there be something else here for the client? Press E, you check to see if you're at the Jeep. If so, then tell server to start driving. When you tell the server to start driving, you're saying switch has authority. What? So like I said, this is where it stops working for the client, is at this point right here. It never makes it to Gil actors of class. It never gets to the possession. It can't get to that point because it's broken right here. So, like I said, if I throw another print text in here, and type in here before the switch and after the switch, and just run this through here. So it'll return back saying before the switch and after the switch. So compile and save, hit play. So as the client here, come over here and there, before the switch. Before the switch is lighting up, but not after the switch. So come over here as server, before and after the switch, but I don't know if you noticed that, but before the switch came up twice. Did you see what I was saying there, though, on that? Whenever I actually get in as the server, it's saying before, after, and before again. It is absolutely locking up on me. So only the server has authority. Yeah, and that's what we're finding out here. The client has no authority whatsoever. We need to fix that problem. But the other thing that I was noticing was whenever the server went to it, it printed off this, and then printed off this again. We insert a function called onServer after you're pressing E. This function running on server can call the multicast event. Well, whenever I run this as multicast off of tell server to start driving, if I tried doing multicast across the board or run on server, already went through all this earlier on, but so the client gets to here and does not have the authority. What does remote do? I mean, I can get rid of both of these two right here. Hook this back up. Authority to here. Switch has authority. Key press verifies you're at the vehicle and then tells the server to start driving. this is calling this function right here. So this function says switch has authority, and then it begins running this function. It can't begin to run this function as the client because it can't get past switch has authority. Tell server to start driving. The client can actually get to this point right here, but the client cannot get past switch has authority. Sorry, I'm fidgeting a lot. It's just annoying as crap trying to get this to work. And if I tried everything as run on server, it was having problems. Run everything as multicast, it was having problems. There's just problems every which way there is. I'm not changing anything on the map whatsoever, but it keeps prompting me to save. So, client, again, nothing but good to go. Server works just fine. Client sees the driver, it's replicated. Everything works just fine except for the fact that no bueno, can't get in. So what would I run besides the switch as authority here to be able to allow the client to have authority? I'd tell the server to start driving. Which is calling this function. This is the function of this. This is a custom event that I created to say switch as authority, tell client to start driving. Tell client to start driving says go through all the possession stuff. But it can't get to that point until I get past switch as authority. How do you give the client authority? Because with the other project that I had, I'm just going to pull this one up really quickly. I could have more than one project running at a time, so where the hell is it? Right there. MP test. Yeah. So I'm going to open up this one. Okay. I understand that but how does the client get access to being able to do something to replicate? So if you look at this project right here, let's go to test map. Nothing, little thing here, and I'm going to play. So it's going to resize these. Alright, server is this one. This is the server here on the right. So if the server comes over here and spawns in this guy, no problem. Client, I can come over here. Hey, you put down something cool. I want to do the same thing. So, client can do the same thing. Client and server, just fine. So, you can do this all day long with this one. Essentially all I did with this was just seeing about placing an item. You can see is a custom static mesh. The actor itself is the floor with a little ball right there is just a reference to the center point. Doesn't really do anything. Was just trying to figure out how to center it so that I can actually do that. So you stop at the middle so you know to spawn it there so you can make a continuous bridge. So yeah, it all works. I mean, this is just a quick test project, and with it, the server and client both are working correctly, and it's just with possessions where I'm having the issue. Because this right here, I'll probably have some unnecessary crap in here, but sorry, OCD. Placing tile, viewport, event graph. That's crouching. So placing the tile, essentially you press E. I don't know why I have anything on the release side there. I was just could probably get rid of that, and the whole bottom part there, because I don't need to have stop placing. I was just copying it off of the, like for the animation here for crouching. You're going to tell the server to start and stop crouching. So go in here and play. Come over here and crouch. So when I pressed the key, it begins to crouch. I didn't have the other animations in. I just, like I said, was testing things. No problem. I can crouch. Server and client sees everything. So this is client. This is server. So that works fine. I know I got a bunch of unnecessary crap in there, but okay. I understand that the clients can have authority over things that they created, just like with the other thing. It's creating that floor tile. That's cool. I can relate to that. But how and why can't the... I mean, everything works for the client up to right here, right before the switch has authority. So I can come in here and do a print text, and doesn't matter. I'm just going to put a bunch of X's in here, and I'm just going to deploy it between the server start driving and switch has authority. This is where I'm stopped. So if I come in here and okay, this is the client. Client can come over and you see it's showing up on the screen there. Not 100%, but you see it's showing up. But he can't get into the vehicle. It stops at that point. But server said, okay, well, let's look at it again. It announced to the client 1 and server that I'm doing that, the X's show up. Client 1, hello, all the X's. Client and server. We'll come over here as the client. Client 1 is saying hello. But it's not talking to the server at that point because it doesn't have authority. So that's my deal. what do I need to put? Because, oh wait, there won't be anything here. Because, I mean, you can see both of the vehicles. They're there. Both of them are in the map. No problem. The client and the server both see both vehicles. Server can do everything. The client cannot get into the vehicle. So at Jeep is replicated. That's a rep notify. Function. There's nothing in here. On rep at Jeep. I don't know where that came from. I don't know what this function is here. I have no function anywhere else that says on rep at Jeep. No clue. But like I said, if everybody can see it, I mean, I go in here, I'll do 3. So that server is client 1. This is kind of crappy trying to fit all these onto one monitor whenever I have three monitors. But this is client 2 in upper right, client 1 is in the bottom. So let's actually bring client 2 over here where we can see everybody. Client 2 cannot get into the Jeep. Client 1 cannot get into the Jeep. Yeah, I just got to figure out this one point right here. This is what's killing me. I don't guess it really matters anything about what's going on with the Jeep right now, because if we can't get in, there's no reason to worry about getting out. I don't know. This is multiplayer replication is not my thing. I always had somebody else that was doing this, so I didn't have to worry about it. But I mean, I can do other stuff with replication and I have no problems with it whatsoever. But it's just this right here. Animations, no problem. It's just the switch has authority. It's stopping here on its way to the possession. Said I get a good readout to here, but nothing here. So I would have to create another player controller. I don't have another player controller. I'm using the standard player controller. Well, you would think you would run it on each individual client instead of actually on the server. And you just want to notify the server, hey, I'm doing this whenever you go to do it. This is, to me, what seems logical. If you're going to be the client, you need to notify the server. So, and this is, from what I've learned on doing multiplayer replication, was telling it to tell the server to start doing something. The client should be telling the server. So tell server, it's whoever presses the E key and whatever's on this end right here should be telling the server that I'm going to start driving. Whenever I do this, this is this. So to me, I don't know why you would have to do this so that you can pick it up here, to run it through here, to pick it up from here. Why wouldn't you be able to do this all the way through, But when you create this custom event, it's what's saying, okay, multicast this. So multicast this event, which is switch as authority, and then it's saying tell the client to start driving. The client to start driving is actually run on the server. But should I be doing this on a player controller instead of on a player character? And with the player controller, would just be casting to the player, the third person character, or the Jeep player character. These are both characters. This is just vehicle movement for the Jeep and regular character movement for third person character. But like I said, it handles attaching this controller to the specified pawn for the possession. This function will only execute on the server. Okay? But is my logic correct on this? Whenever you press the E key, this is zoomed in as far as I can go, sorry. You're asking the question, are you at the Jeep? If the answer is yes, then you run this multicast event of switch as authority and then tell the client to start driving, which is a replicated thing. It's probably just one of these things where, this should be enough information for someone to look at it and say, hey, yes, it's this, or no, it's that, or whatever. And maybe you're not able to get through my thick skull. I'm a little bit on the Dane bread side sometimes. But to me, this is, from what other tutorials and everything else I've seen, is said to, when you're beginning the event of doing something, you tell the server. And now this is, for everything else that I was doing, this was not a multicast. It was run on server. And I'll just run this as run on server. Okay? And with run on server, client, I can get in, but I have no control of the vehicle whatsoever. Okay? Now, when I come over here to the server, guess what? The server is now driving the Jeep and controlling what the client was trying to do. So I'm controlling the server has now taken over possession of the client. This character right here that I'm running into, that's the server. Server is right there that I'm running into. I get out and okay, it's freezing up here. The client can see the server is now standing next to the vehicle. But the client no longer has a character. The client's done. So if I go back here, and that's because I took this tell server to start driving, I took it from multicast to run on server. So the only change that I did just then was this right here, tell server to start driving. I changed it from multicast to run on server. The tell server to start driving. If I put it back on multicast, what about run on owning client? Alright, so this is the client here. Server standing right there. Not letting me get in. So I come back over here as server. See a client still sitting over there. Server can jump right in. Yeah. But this client just cannot get in the damn car. So, run on owning client. Multicast, run on server, and none of these options allow the client to actually. I'll leave that on run on owning client. And then what about this? This is run on server. To start driving the Jeep is run on server. What if I put this on, and it shouldn't matter, but run on owning client? We're only worried about right now getting into the Jeep, and this is the part of getting into the Jeep right now. So this is client. And this is server. Okay, I'm going to put the server over here. Client comes over. Still cannot get in the Jeep. No problem. Server has no problems getting into the vehicle or getting out of the vehicle. So it doesn't matter which way I set it up. So this is run on owning client. This is run on owning client. And it didn't change anything. Still brings me back to the point of can't get past switch as authority. So if I can't get past that, it won't get to the actual possession portion of it. That's why I came in here and I did print text. And I'm just going to put a bunch of X's in here just to stand out. And put this in between switch as authority and tell client to start driving. So client comes over. When I try to get in, it doesn't print that at all. Okay. Come over here as the server. The server just announces it, and that's it. Server announces whenever I get in. I take that same print text and put it in between there. So now it's going to try to print that text between tell server to start driving and switch as authority. Client comes over, tries to get in. Client, it just tells the client, announces, hey, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get in the car. So now with the server, whenever I try to get in the car, server announces it. Yeah, that's part of the way, but like I said, the server announces, hey, there it is. But the client, whenever, and it gets in the car, but as a client, it's shouting out, hey, there we are. Say we get all X's if we do this before switch as authority, and then we come in here and print text again and do it after switch as authority. We got X's, so what the hell, let's go with O's. So now we should see an X and an O and an X. Alright, so client, come over here, and I'm announcing client is trying to get into the car. And it prints it. Okay? Come over here as the server. Server's only announcing the X and the O. It's not telling the client, although the client sees it. Client can get to the announcing part that it's trying to get in. To make it less confusing with the X's and O's. The hugs and kisses here. So before the switch, and then this right here after the switch. And to make it less complicating, we'll change the color to red. Alright, client tries and reports back client before the switch. Server reports back before the switch, after the switch. mean, hell, even my damn... the steering wheel is replicating correctly. Before the switch, before the switch, before the switch. The server sees it saying before the switch. But let's make sure that we can see this. Alright, server. The client sees the server doing it just fine. Alright. That was kind of screwed up there too. The views are pissing me off. Alright. Yeah. Alright, so I don't know what happened just in there, but go back over here, get out the possession, and I'm just going to delete these two things right here because we know we've beat that horse to death here. Get connected back over there. Alright, for the possession of possessing the Jeep, you get all actors of class and run a for each loop to check to see if it can be driven. Can drive is this right here, and it's getting that from the begin overlap. But yeah, it has things that it does before it even gets to the possess part there. So what you're trying to say is it should be client-sided. And yes, I agree that the client, whether you're client 1, client 2, client 20, should be calling to the server saying, hey, I'm getting in a vehicle. But to be able to get into that vehicle, you need to first verify that you're at the Jeep. So this is the player. This is the player character right here. Whenever I press E, it's asking, are you at the Jeep? Are you at a Jeep? The only way you can get that right there is that right there. And whenever you get next to a Jeep, you go to the box collision, it casts to the player character to set the thing at Jeep. And can drive is also replicated. Yeah, but looking at the Jeep itself, everything else is working correctly, you know, on this. The client has no problem seeing the server doing what it's doing. And the server sees the client trying to access this switch. The server can see this. to this point, but it's not granting the client access. So instead of switch has authority, I mean, you've got all these different switches you can work with. I mean, but switch has authority is right there. It's just switch has authority. And if I just did a type in authority, it comes up switch has authority. If I type in the word client, the only thing I do is just tell client to start driving, which is that. Because that's getting reference to self. This is getting reference to self. So the target here from tell server to start driving should be the player controller. And nothing. I can't get player controller. I can get player controller here, but it doesn't connect to self. What else would connect to self here? I mean, promote it to a variable and replicate that variable, or I mean, what? I mean, because if you get player controller here, and this is just the default player controller. Player index 0. I mean, that's normal, but you can't run the player controller into that or that. On the possession, the target for possess is coming from the player controller. So instead of player controller, it should try to come from the array element from here to get that player itself. So if I break that, and the target should then be there, target object reference comes up. So yeah, it's just, it wasn't getting anything from the client, is what I'm saying. Is it gets one from the server if it runs on the server, okay? But you see what I did here, though. Whenever I'm doing this for the possession, it's going through, and I pulled from for each loop the array element, which is the player character, like where you get the can drive. I'm sorry, this is for the Jeep itself. You're actually going to possess that one. It didn't give an error at that point, but yeah, it makes no difference on the client there. But see, now I can't drive at all. And yeah, and that's because of that. So get player controller was working just fine for the possession. Alright, but that would have to come back from right here. Tell server to start driving. Because the client can't get past the switch as authority to be able to tell it to start doing a possession. It can't get to the possession because it can't get past switch as authority. So it doesn't matter one way or the other. This, I could delete every bit of this right here. You know, I could break this link right here from tell client to start driving, and I could break that and then bring in a print text and just say hello. Now whenever I go to play as the server, I come over here to try to get in the vehicle, it's just going to say hello. Right? Oh, well, let's do it again. But as the client, come over here, I can't get to hello because I can't get past that point. Server, no problem. I can run right over to the same vehicle and it says hello. Player controlled to store information that must persist between pawns, and that sounds logical. Player state, store, game states, for storing information that exists on both server and client. So, switch as authority can basically go to hell. At this point, this needs to be run on the player controller, the individual controller, or the game state, or the player state, game state, because and this is, I'm probably wrong here, but when you're looking at let's look at the game mode. I'm using third-person game mode, and you can go away. And it's actually running game session classes, default game session, game state, regular, unchanged, player controller, unchanged, player state, unchanged, HUD class, unchanged. Default pawn class is the player, third-person character, or I just call my third-person character player_base. Spectator pawn, player controller for a spectator, server stat replicator. Never messed with that one before. Default player name, never messed with that. Use seamless travel, start players as spectators, pausable. None of this has changed whatsoever. The only thing that's different is the name of the default pawn class is player_base. So third person game mode is pretty much unchanged. And there is no new HUD. The main menu has a HUD, but that's it. And the player itself, like I said, if I come back in here and play in selected viewport, the sound of the vehicles are working. So, of course, I have no problems whatsoever in single player. running with just one player whatsoever. Both vehicles work independently from each other, so whenever I'm at this particular one, I get in this particular Jeep. Yeah, known little bug there. If you get out while you're accelerating and turning, it'll keep accelerating and turning. You sit there and do donuts. So everything is lovely except for the fact that on this one particular thing here, the client just can't do shit. So okay, I've seen every bit of my code right there on that. So if you can come up with some other ideas on it, let me know. Because this has got me stumped on that. I'm going to probably end up having to break it all down and go back to creating a player controller and game state and all that stuff right there, because I need to create the save game. This particular thing right here was just a demo. And I guess for right now, I don't really care as much if the client can't get into a Jeep. As long as the player can. This is just a try before you buy for the asset pack for the City Studios Explorer kit. All this was just that. And the only thing that's really in that particular asset pack is going to be 2 characters, the Jeep, and the little items that are sitting here on the shelf. There's no buildings, there's no terrain, there's no nothing else. So I just wanted this to be an example for people to go in here and be able to play. And even down to the fact that the mud slows you down and a little launcher to get you out of that. Yeah, it's just been a pain in my butt trying to get that to work. So I'm going to end up having to come back to it and just saying, okay, let's work from there. And then I can come back in as I'm refining my ability to do stuff like this. And that's only affecting me doing possessions for getting in and out of vehicles. Shooting, no problem. Fighting, no problem. Animations, no problem. Spawning things into the world, no problem. I can do all that. But it's just this damn possession stuff that's really driving me crazy. It's like, where the hell is it? I got so many damn different things in here. Because if I did, I think this is it right here. This is actually if it'll come up here. There we go. Oh, this is a different one. Yep, you see nothing. You don't see anything here. Not the one I was doing. Alright, if you guys know where these cars came from, let me know. I don't have all the collisions and everything set up right on it right now. And you can see the car mechanics itself are really screwed up. So, yeah, tell me where those cars came from. Sorry, I'm just browsing through the hard drive here. See, this one right here. What I wanted to be able to do was, yep, go right ahead. Putting a collision on a particle. You could apply a particle to a collision what I would probably do is like if you're spawning a projectile, like this right here. See, I've got a little smoke emitter, and you've got for the effects of whenever you hit. So you get particle effects of that, and then you get particles coming out of the muzzle flash and smoke. I don't have the tracers turned on. This is actually available on my Discord and the demos page. It's the war pack. It needs a lot of work, but I wanted to make these Jeeps work as well, and I want to be able to come over here and just hop in and drive across the battlefield. Oh, look, hidden stash of weapons. Oh, PPS H41. Yeah, I didn't change all the sounds. And a freaking bazooka. What? Still gotta change the particle effects on that too, but you know what? It's still fun. I think I gotta make the 88s work. And I need to fix my view, because what I was doing before was whenever you switch over to engage in combat, change over to a first-person view. You go out of combat, you go back to third-person view. Yeah, tell me how the hell you're going to animate that. That I can kind of spoof a little bit with an invisible wheel, but that, no problem. 6-wheel drive, you can just make it 4 wheels instead of 6. And here's the fun thing. I want to make... Alright, walk a little faster. I want those to work. Cruiser, submarine, and destroyer. I want them to work. I mean, I could do it, but I just haven't spent the time to do it yet. And there's landing crafts too. Alright, so yeah, that's that one. These are all pretty much these different demos are also you talking about the Battle Royale? Let's see here. Battle Royale. Put a demo up of that too, didn't I? In fact, I'm sure I did. TV4 Battle Royale. Red Dead. Are you talking about the Wild West one? Yeah, I've got the Wild West one. I've made that into a shooter as well. The Battle Royale is another one of the new ones. So, yeah, this is the Battle Royale pack. So, I'm really going to get my butt back in gear and finish doing the motorcycle. Haven't finished that motorcycle just yet. Let's see here. By the way, these are the different guns in here. Revolver grenade launcher, light machine guns, Desert Eagle, revolvers, MP5, MP7, all kind of cool shit. So, you're talking about town. City, Explorer, Nature, Test Car is one that I was thinking about earlier. So this one right here. I know it looks like a desktop, but give it a second. Oh, it's something new? Okay. I'll check. I haven't been on the site. What are you looking at? Hell, I like this one. I can imagine if it's a full Frontier pack. Hey, look, Elf Kit. Don't know why, but that gun always just seems to act a little laggy. The sawed-off shotgun pistol. But I'll look into that one, and I will definitely check a look at it. If they got something new coming out, then you know I'll have it. I've got them all. Test Car was the one I was actually thinking about. Yeah, I've got to get that possession thing figured out, or if there's a different way of being able to get in and out of vehicles, then I need to look at it also. Yeah, ignore the Motor City Online logo. Playing around with different options here: test track or city map. So you test track and host it there. So you'd be able to get into the Cindy Studios cars and vehicles and drive them around, actually have decent physics and have fun with them. So this is just a little whatever track I threw together. This one does work in multiplayer as well. This is a test car that's up there on the Discord. Go back to main menu, multiplayer, host, city, make. I should have made those where you can knock them over. But yeah, that's it. Alright. I've gotten my ass kicked by multiplayer replication long enough tonight. This vehicle stuff seems to be a little bit better than the other one. Alright, well, I'll check out that other one, and thank everybody for trying to help with this. So if you come up with some other ideas, let me know. I mean, it's 4:30 in the morning, and it's my bedtime. So, thanks for the help again. And if you come up with any ideas, you can help me try to get through this, let me know. I can't give this entire project out because it does have my template and it does have Cindy Studios assets in it, so I can't just give the project away. Oh, no problem, bud. that I try to be helpful as much as I possibly can to everybody else, but every so often I just need a little help on my own. And by the way, on the knife things, the blades are done. My old belt grinder died and kind of broke in pieces, so the new one will be here Tuesday. So I'll be able to finish up the wood on the two kitchen knives. They're Santokos. 1 second here. The wood is absolutely beautiful, by the way. They're leopard wood, and it's sorry for the crinkling paper here. God damn it. Well, they're sharp, I promise you. I put them in a paper bag so that I would, and wrapped them in cardboard so that I would not cut myself, and I just cut the shit out of myself. These bastards are razor sharp. I will make sure these are properly cleaned before they get sold, but yeah, one of these little assholes just have two identical blades already cut and set and sharpened and ready, but I don't know, it's a big boo-boo, but still, you know, I barely touched the damn blade and I'm fucking bleeding. So I was just reaching into the bag that I put them in to keep me from cutting myself. Did a good job, didn't I? So yeah, once I get the wood done and shaped and put on and preferably waxed, but if not waxed, then I'll get some videos of it before, or you know, get them on screen before then. Yeah, putting them in, I'm gonna have to just wrap the damn blades in tape just to keep that from happening again. And that was just, I barely touched the blade and it frickin' drew blood. So I'm just gonna wrap the blades in like painter's tape just to keep them from doing that. I'll probably line the edge of it with cardboard and then tape it. But like I said, if you do buy one of these two knives, and projecting the price is going to be 90 bucks, and it does seem like it's a lot for a kitchen knife, but you have to keep in mind the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that I'm putting into them. But the ouch, shit. Got the wood scales right here. They're prepackaged scales. I cheated a little bit on the scales, but the it's kind of hard to see the pattern of it. But the main portion of the handles are going to be leopard wood, and the nose end, or I don't want to get too technical on terms right now, but the tip that's right there before the blade is actually going to be this, which is African blackwood. So leopard wood and African blackwood combined together should look quite nice to make a nice little Santoko blade, which is obviously razor sharp. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and give me a shout on Discord sometime. I'm always around. Even if I'm not visible on there, I'm usually still here. So we'll see you guys. Take care.